and welcome to this video in which I'm building the Airfix R.M.S. Titanic starter set in 1/1000th scale. If you find it useful and enjoy it, please remember to like the video below, and while you're there, why not subscribe to my channel to see some other builds and new projects. Best of all, check out my top 10 tips for new model makers. This is a starter set and is rated at skill level 1, so suitable for absolutely anyone. If you're a member of the Airfix Club, you can collect 1 flying hour for this model and put it towards a free kit later on. Anyway, let's see what's inside the box. The box opens at one end, and we'll be careful as there are quite a few things packed into here. So the first thing we notice is that we have a few packs of plastic parts on their sprues, plus a few bigger bits. We'll come back to those in a moment. Then we have a couple of Humbrol paintbrushes, a tube of polystyrene cement, a bag of paints, and the instruction sheet. Having a look now at the plastic parts we get, we start with a few larger parts such as the lower and upper hull and a piece for the main passenger deck. Then in this plastic bag here we have lots of parts to make up the other visible various bits of deck and superstructure and parts of the funnels. Next is a sprue with the masts and funnel tops, rigging and the stand. Another couple of loose bits of decking. Then there is this sparkly metal coated sprue for the screws and for the anchors. And finally, this tiny sheet of stickers with the nameplates and some flags. There are 6 paints supplied with this kit. There's black and brick red for the hull, white for the superstructure, a pale tan colour for the decks, a darker wooden brown for the masts and seats, and a kind of peachy flesh colour for the funnels. The brushes are a number 2 for general work and a number 0 for details. Oh, and there's the tube of polystyrene cement as well. On the back of the box is the plan for the colours. Now don't worry about all the straight lines on the hull, as we can cheat a bit with them. Before you start, have a good read through the instructions. Now, as usual with Airfix, the instructions are clear and well drawn and very easy to follow. Finally, before we build anything, I'm giving all the parts a wash with a mild detergent solution, say a few drops of washing up liquid in a cup of water. The moulding process can leave some oily residues on the plastic, which will make it very difficult to paint later. To prepare the surface even more, I always spray my kits with a gentle coat of primer as well. Any primer will do, but do make sure it's one for plastics. To cut pieces from the sprue, I use modelling nippers, but any fine pointed sharp clippers will do. Any excess left on the part is sanded off. Use a nail file or make your own sanding sticks. Again, more details in my 10 top tips video on my channel. The first thing we're going to do here is to add the propeller shafts to the bottom of the hull. Dry fit parts first where you can before you commit anything with glue, in case any extra sanding of the parts is needed. Now I'm going to suggest we paint the hull before assembly. While the propeller shafts are setting, you can paint the upper hull with black paint. Make sure the paint goes into all the details, then give it a gentle brush over to remove any obvious brush strokes. Take your time and don't add too much paint at once. You can do more than one coat and get a better effect than just slapping it on. Then paint the lower hull brick red. Some of the paints will need mixing before you use them. Whilst they're on shop shelves, the paints can begin to split. A cocktail stick or a toothpick does the job nicely. So now we can add the upper hull to the lower. There are locating pins to help you position it. Now you can see how the hull line between the black and the red is nice and straight. Next are some fixtures on the decks. We're starting with the after deck area. Now these details come as mouldings that get pushed through holes in the deck. I found these very tight, so you might want to just open up the holes a tiny bit with a small drill or round file if you can. Alternatively, paint the parts after assembly and just touch up these pieces that are visible. There are a lot of them, a lot of plastic for not much effect, I think. Anyway, next we add some superstructures to the aft deck, then the after deck cranes. Note how almost everything is painted ahead of time on the sprue. On the forward deck piece, I've not painted the detail parts until after they're fitted. Now they did go on a little more easily, but they're still a very tight fit. With the detail parts touched up, I can add the forward cranes. Then the piece can be fitted to the forward railing. Once they're complete, the aft and forward decks can go into the main hull section. Then we just work our way up and along the ship, adding small decks and this large side piece. At the front, this piece representing the bridge slots in. The next large deck piece has several cutouts for detail parts. All of these are benches for passengers to sit on, and I've pre-painted them in the darker wood brown. Push them all firmly into place. Then there are more superstructure parts, building the detail of the upper works with occasional extra deck pieces too. Just follow the instructions piece by piece and always double check the part numbers with the drawings. With all of these parts fitted together, the large deck piece can be placed into the main hull section. Next to add are the rows of lifeboats, tragically too few as it turned out in 1912. While all those pieces set up, I'll paint the base colour of the funnels. Now the funnels are moulded in lower and upper pieces. The upper pieces will be black, as will the pipes at the front and the back of each funnel. Now some more deck details, a couple of lifeboats, a large pipe, and then the masts. The masts are pre-painted in the dark wood brown colour, and they slot into square holes at the front and the back. Then the base of each funnel can go into place. The iconic four funnel look of the Titanic really pops out when you do this. Then add the black funnel tops. At this point I'm going to do a bit of touch up on the hull where the joint was made at the start, plus touch up any scuffs caused during the production. Next are the rigging for the masts, and these are chunky parts that fit into the deck and then onto pegs on the masts themselves. Now I think they're far too thick and far too prominent, but I guess at this scale it's difficult to be even close to 100% accurate. A few final details, a mast stay at the prow and the jackstaff at the stern, and we're very nearly complete now. The kit comes with a display stand. These are the feet and these just fit together. Paint them whatever colour you like. I had some brass paint hanging around, but the black from the kit would look classy as well. As the display feet are drying, I'm adding the nameplates on the ship. Now, disappointingly, these are stickers rather than water decals, and the register is a little out. So, for example, the T of Titanic is a bit clipped. There is a name also for each side of the bow as well. Then the flags, and again these are plastic stickers. They wrap around the mast and stick to themselves. The scale means that the masts are too chunky, so the flags look a bit small and weedy, but at least they are there. Now the painted stand pieces go into holes that are already there in the hull, and then we can fit a nameplate on the front. Now if you've painted the whole thing black, you might try picking out the raised letters in white. Finally, the shiny bits supplied in the kit. The centre screw has 4 blades and fits in front of the rudder. I'm using tweezers as my fingers are way too chunky. The outer screws both have 3 blades. The last pieces on are the anchors, 1 on each side of the bow. And that is it. Our model of the R.M.S. Titanic is complete. It's not brilliant, but it's not too bad either. Some of the parts are too tight out the box, and the scale makes for some of the issues. But at the end of the day, it is straightforward enough, it looks good, and it's a great introduction to modelling. Now if you've enjoyed this video, found it useful, please do remember to like it below, and subscribe to my channel to see previous builds and new ones as they arrive. Don't forget my top 10 tips for new model makers, and you can even buy me a coffee through the link below. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.